It's interesting when you talk about fundraising. Do you glaze over at that point and think, oh my word? I mean, how much support do you get from anywhere else?
We turned over last year £1 million, and of that 1 million, about 55% was from the local authority contracts to deliver services within Solihull.
Is there central government funding at all?
There is some central government, and of that 55%, some of that is central government. And then we also apply to trusts. We've had support from places like Children in Need. We've had some support from local trusts. Hampton Manor Homes have been very supportive to us. And so that's another sort of area that we get funding from. Our members that come to our service pay a small subscription, so that supports some of it, and then the rest of it is fundraised.
Okay, so any joy with the lottery?
We've had money with the lottery many years ago. That was when we had our first sort of real growth spurt. But since then, we've applied probably about 3 times to the National Lottery. And on every occasion, we've been told that we've got a very strong bid, but the competition for the bids is so high that actually we were unsuccessful. And it's very difficult because so much time goes into a lottery bid that you have to balance it off the amount of time put in. That doesn't mean to say we won't apply again.
No, no. I mean, you mentioned as well things like Children in Need, and I know somebody who worked with disabled children at a school in Coventry, and they used to apply every year to Children in Need. They said the process was so draining that they, you know, they thought that some people would probably just give up and think, well, look, you know, hey, we'll find another way.
Yeah, a lot of these processes are very long-winded, and a lot of them will say initially just put in an expression of interest, but the reality is if you put in an expression of interest, you have to know what you're going to fund, how you're going to fund it. So all of that work still has to go in. And I do know funders have got to be really robust in terms of finding out which is the best group to fund, and I know that process has to happen. But there are times when you do, you know, it's quite soul destroying, but we have had a couple of grants from Children in Need.
So you then have got to find 45% of this yourself, of your money? Yes. Yes. How on earth do you go about doing that?
Well, we do get a lot of support. We have corporate support. You know, we've got local solicitor like Brown Jacobson have supported us and have chosen us a charity of the year. We've had Sainsbury's, Asda, a number of different corporate people have supported us. Skills First, and a huge number, and I've probably forgotten some of them, and sorry if I have, because we really appreciate their support. So we get little small amounts from there, but we have a fundraising volunteer fundraising group who do a huge amount of events. We have a fundraising ball. We usually do one No Limits fundraising event every year, abseiling off Fort Dunlop.
Yes, now tell me about this. You just very quickly, before we, during the commercial break, said you jumped off a building. What was that all about?
We did an abseil off Fort Dunlop, and we actually got so many people involved in it. We had two ropes down. I'm a great believer in that I don't ask people to do anything that I'm not prepared to do myself, except I'm not going to bungee jump or jump out of an aeroplane. I'd just like to make that clear.
But I wouldn't jump off a building, so.
Well,
what was that like?
It was the most scary thing I've ever done. I don't like heights anyway. Yeah, it looked great at the time, and then when I was actually at the top and about to sort of get off the side of the building, it was really terrifying. It's quite exhilarating though. Did
you do that by yourself? I mean, or did you have somebody with you to bring you down?
I actually had my daughter with me on the other rope, who was also sponsored. The only problem was that she was much more adventurous than me and thought it was great fun, and was jumping down the building, which leaping down the building as young people do. And I had got visions of us being tangled in the middle of it and being rescued, but we both got down safely, and she had a great time.
So how much money did you raise for doing that then?
For the abseil, we raised over £5,000. It was very successful, and it was a brilliant day because some of our learning disabled members abseiled as well. And that was great because actually it was all about including them. Yeah, we had quite a few of them actually got sponsored and did it.
And you've had a fun run not so long ago, haven't you, as well?
We've been one of the nominated charities for the Dorridge Fun Run, a brilliant event run by a local church every year, and we were one of the nominated charities this year. It's cycle, run and walk. I'm not built for running, so I cycled it and got sponsored to cycle it. And there were 1,500 people take part, and it was not all of ours, obviously, but there was a sea of red solo T-shirts.
That is impressive, particularly the jumping off that building. I do not know how you did it. Getting big companies or even smaller ones to help people along, and how you fundraise. I mean, this must be a 24/7 job, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like that. But I think when you're passionate about something, then you are prepared to go the extra mile. And there's so many rewards. You know, I personally get so many rewards from the work that I do. And right across the organisation, I've got staff who constantly go above and beyond what their sort of day job is. And it's very much about the benefit for the members that we serve, and that is a reward in itself. It sounds a bit of a cliche, but that is the actual reality. But it does sometimes feel like a very, very hard slog, particularly around fundraising. And we're very, very cautious about our fundraising. I don't particularly hold with people standing and really putting people on the spot. We don't do any sort of cold calling. We don't send mail shots to people. We really rely on word of mouth, on people actually seeing what we do, being impassioned by what we do, and then wanting to contribute towards us, because I do think that there's an ethical side to fundraising that's really important, that the values of our organisation go through to everything we do, not just the service we provide to our members, but also the way we work, the way we treat people, and also the way we fundraise.
And of course there's so many charities fighting for a slice of the cake.
Absolutely. It's very, very competitive. And that, again, you have to be very careful, because there are other charities who are doing really, really good work and deserve to be supported. And we, all of us, get touched by various different charities. You know, I've had friends who died from cancer and have been in hospices, and I've seen and helped fundraise for those charities. So there is a huge amount of good that is out there. But ultimately, I'm Chief Exec of Solo Life Opportunities, and that is the charity I want people to support, and that's almost inevitable, really.
What was it that drew you to this particular charity then?
Well, I was working for MENCAP, which is a national organisation. I was a district officer for MENCAP for many years, and as an organisation they gave me a huge benefit and grounding in the work that I did, lots of training and lots of support. I started to see around me an awful lot of people who were being given information, advice and signposting, and actually what they really needed was direct service, something that they could actually experience and feel and benefit from. I also worked in the field of social and leisure, and saw how leisure was a really good tool to enable people to make friends, to gain independence, to find themselves. And so the combination of the two really sort of drove me to sort of set up Solo, which I did, with a volunteer group of people, and various parents, carers, volunteers, local authority, and we actually set up the charity. And the purpose of the charity was to actually provide direct services, real experiences for people, tangible things that people could benefit from, and that's where it started. That was 15 years ago.
I suppose for a lot of people as well, it's when they, as you mentioned earlier, like with friends who'd been in hospices, it's when somebody you know or somebody within your family, and it suddenly touches you.
Yes,
it
definitely
does change people's outlooks a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, until you've experienced it, you don't. There's that sort of phrase: "Until you've walked in my shoes, you won't know what I've experienced." And there is that element to it. Although I have to say that a lot of people who support us have never had any experience of learning disability. So it's quite interesting, the number of people who support us, just because they will meet they'll meet our ambassador, and they will be really touched by what he's told them, or they'll see a group that are out and they'll be really impressed with what they're doing. But I would say that probably about 75% of our support comes from people who actually experience it.
And very briefly, the one thing that you never want people to feel is pity, isn't it?
Well, there's no reason to feel pity, because actually the people I work with are probably some of the nicest people that you would hope to meet, who constantly teach me about humility, about just graciousness, about friendliness, about accepting people as they are. So actually I don't think they need pity.
That is the key. We've talked about how you raise your money, and it's not an easy thing to do. Is there a danger, do you think, I'm not saying yours, but that some charities are going to reach a point where there simply isn't enough money for them to carry on, and that's going to pose a lot of problems? I mean, given that councils are cutting back all the time.
And obviously the cutbacks are having an effect on charities, and there is a fight for survival. In our area alone, in the last 2 years, 5 charities closed, at least 5 that I know of closed, and most of that was around funding. So there is that danger. But I think if charities, well, I can only go from my own experience. We've worked really hard at diversifying our funding so that we don't rely on any single source of funding for our existence. And I think that's really important. We've also looked at ways in which we can actually provide sustainable income into the organisation through, we deliver a number of services that can be purchased with direct payments through the social care system. And that again keeps the organisation going. It doesn't subsidise other parts of the organisation, but it actually keeps us going and enables us to be viable. So I think that I think you have to have a business head on your shoulders. It's not enough just to do good work. You now have to look very carefully. We've just launched our 5-year strategic plan, which includes how we're going to fund ourselves for the next 5 years. We look at the ways in which we recruit our staff, the ways we involve volunteers more and more in the delivery of our services. So I just think you have to be, you have to be business-like, you have to be astute, you have to be careful. But equally, if you've got a vision and a passion, then that actually will attract the funding as you go along.
So is the business head what will make a charity succeed and move forward? Not
alone, no. It's got to be a combination, because if it all becomes business, then actually where is that charitable identity? It's got to be a combination. I'm not saying that charities that are closed are necessarily because they're badly managed, but you've got to have good management, you've got to have sound governance, you've got to have a really good business plan to be working to, but you've also got to have vision and passion, you've got to have a good set of values, you've got to really work to those values and make sure you're true to them. So I think it is a combination of the whole, and that is, I think, is the measure of success.
And of course, you've got to get your message out there. You know about it.
Oh, yes.
People you deal with know about it.
Yeah.
But, how many people could you stop in the street who would know that you were around?
Well, that's also always a challenge for a local charity. There's a lot more opportunities now. We're on Twitter and Facebook. I do a blog every week on our website. We measure our traffic through our website. Today is an opportunity for me to talk about solo life opportunities. We put advertisements in the press. So there's lots of ways, but because we're a smaller charity, we don't have a PR department, we don't have a communications department, we don't have a fundraising department. So it's very much homegrown, and we do use a lot of volunteer support to help us get our message out there. It's hard.
Isn't that part of the fun of it, though? Isn't that what keeps you going? Isn't that what drives you?
It is, yeah. No days are the same. It's totally varied, yeah, I would say that is personally that's what drives me. But I know that when we did a survey recently and we did some appraisals with our staff, quite a few people were saying what they absolutely loved was the variety, yeah, I think that's a good thing.
And I guess too that when you get success stories, when you get somebody who is able to do something that they didn't think they could do,
yeah.
when somebody gets a job, these are all the things that make you say, that's why I get up, that's why I go and do it.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Those are what I call snapshot moments. They're the moments that when life's tough and it's really hard and perhaps you've been turned down by something else you've gone through, you just pull back that snapshot moment that reminds you of this is why I do it. Yeah.
And now we know. Solihull Life Opportunities, Janet Down, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
That's where we leave it for this morning. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye.